Today I'm gonna show you how to make this into this. Let's make some Atlas stones. In the beginning of this summer I bought a stone mold, a 15-inch stone mold from Hybrid Athletics. This one that I got here. And so throughout the summer I've been making a few 15 inches stones. This was the first hybrid stone that I made, and then I've made a few others. And then just a little over a week ago I received for a 14 inch and a 16 inch as well. Got them over here. So just a few days ago I picked these out of the molds, and they've been drying a little extra since then. Today I'm gonna make another batch, 14, 15 and 16, and I'll walk you through the process of making them. I make them slightly different than I see in many other videos. I use a different kind of mixture of concrete, and to get out the air bubbles I use a different technique. This one was my first, and it actually has quite a few bubbles. I'll show you in a second, and the most recent ones doesn't really have any air bubbles. So the mold consists of two parts, one with a hole to pour in the concrete, and then a bottom. You put those together with some zip ties. I already got it on the other two, as you can see here. On the inside you make sure to clean the inside, and then spray it with a lot of silicone spray. That will help making it easier to take out the stone. And as I said, to prevent air bubbles I got a different technique. This was the first stone. As you can see, there's small bubbles on this side. And the way I did with this one was using a rubber millet and slapping on the side, but I guess that wasn't enough. On these, the new ones, I used a different technique that I'll get into later in this video. And then there's the common issue using hybrid molds, because they are connected in the way they are. Water can get out of the mold. And the Slater molds, it doesn't have that, but I cannot get Slater molds here in Europe, so I got the hybrid. When connecting these parts, water can get out here because it's not properly sealed. And you see that because it will make an edge around. I made this 15-inch stone just before I made these three, and I guess in this one I used a bit too wet mixture compared to the other ones that doesn't have the same kind of edge. You can see all the water has been running out here. So I'll also get into to how wet it should be. Now I just flip this one. This is the end where all the concrete goes in, so that's the hole in the mold that you can see here. And so I'll also get into how to flatten that surface properly, and also how to make this surface much smoother and safe to work with. You need to use an angle grinder with a plate for grinding concrete. And the first stone I made, I had the same issue, that around the edge between the two mold parts all the water had been running out. So on this one I pour on some extra concrete after it was dry. It makes a slightly rough surface, but I guess that can be sanded down. I might have to do that on this stone, but I don't think the other three stones that I got here will need that. So I'm finally ready to mix the concrete and put it inside the molds. It's been a few days since I started recording this video. We suddenly had some rain and thunder, and it's been raining for a couple of days. Now it's dry. It's been raining earlier today, but hopefully it's gonna stay dry the rest of the day. Let's get started. So the way I'm gonna make the concrete is by using a mix of sand and stone. It's probably called mold mixing. And you mix that with cement. When you buy a pre-mixed concrete powder, it's basically just sand and cement. And in my area that's really expensive buying it pre-made. But here we use this mix of sand and gravel, and just mix it with cement. I'm gonna mix a bit of ratio of around 5:1, so 5 of the sand and gravel mix and then 1 cement, and then I'll pour in some water until I think it's good. And the mold is ready. I just need to put the silicone spray in it. I got zip ties around, and just for something new, I put tape around it, as you can see, just to see if it holds the water in. I haven't tried this out, just to see if it stops leaking too much. Then I'll use silicone spray. Make sure to use a lot of that. It helps taking out the stone. Then I made a funnel that fits in the hole. That's a really good thing to use. Otherwise you'll have to use a small shovel or spoon or whatever you have, and it just takes a long time. So I'm gonna try it with this funnel now. So when working with concrete, I recommend that you use some waterproof gloves, or put some nitrile gloves, latex gloves on top of your work gloves. So the first batch of concrete is ready, and I think this is a pretty good consistency. It could be a little drier, but I think it's good. It's kind of like that. Doesn't run too much, so I think that's good. Especially now that I got the tape around the mold, I'm pretty sure it's gonna hold in most of the water. So my trick is to remove the air bubbles is to shake it. Every once in a while, after you pour in some concrete, mix it like that, rotate it, mix it, and that gives you a clean, smooth surface. Just a little more than halfway up, it's like here. So it's above the point where the two molds are connected. So currently there's no water dropping out, but let's see when we get more concrete into it. Especially when you hit the point where you think now it's almost full, you really need to shake it a lot because there's still a lot of room in the top up here. So far the tape is keeping most of the water in. There's around some of the zip ties, there's a little bit of water coming out. It's nothing compared to when I'm not using it. I'm running out of concrete now, and I won't be able to fill this stone with it, so I have to mix more. But that's okay, I still got the 2 other stones in here that I'll need to mix. But make sure to make extra, and then you just pour it out afterwards. As you can see, it's all at the top now, but when I shake it, it's probably going to be like this much room left. So yeah, a centimeter, half an inch remaining. So I'll mix that and pour that in. So ready to put the last thing in. And as you can see, there's a little bit of water coming out just around the zip ties, but before I put the tape on, water would be leaking out of just between the molds, and that's not happening now. There's nothing on the underneath either, so that seems to be working really well with the tape around it. When you get to the top, then press it down because there's a lot of room here. But all the water you see here is basically water that comes up on the top of the mold, making room for all this solid stuff. Usually when I get to this point, when it's just out of the top, I take my rubber hammer and slap on the side. That's the way you normally bring out the air bubbles, but it also helps compressing the concrete a little more. So this one is done. I usually take some water just with the hose and clean the top of it without getting water into the hole. I put a little extra on the top because it will keep pressing a little bit down, but don't put too much on it because then you have to grind away a lot of hardened concrete. And again, the amount of water that comes out is much less than when not using tape. I know some people put the mold on top of a bucket, and they say it's to prevent a flat spot on the bottom. I don't think that happens with the hybrid molds because they're actually quite thick. But maybe if you make really large stones, I don't know, 20 inches or so, maybe if that's the same thickness as like the 14, 15 and 16 that I got, yeah, maybe it's a good idea to put it on a bucket. But I haven't had any flat spots on my 14, 15 or 16 inch stones, so I'm not going to use that. I just put this into my shed and let it stay in the mold for a little week, and then take it out and keep it drying for like another week or so, and then I grind off the edge just as I'm going to show you with my previous stones. So now I'm going to grind off the edge on one of the stones to show you. I recommend using safety glasses, good gloves, a shirt or a jacket. There's going to be a lot of particles, small stones, dust and so on, so make sure to wear some proper PPE for that. So I'm going to remove the inlet from where I pour the concrete and then all the edges down here. So grinded that down. It's much smoother now, and not too much of an indent here, and then all the way around there's no sharp edges anymore. Okay, so the last thing to do with the stones is to, especially this one, improve the surface around where the two molds parts were meeting. This stone was the one that I made before the three previous ones, and a lot of water went out of that. I guess I used a bit too wet concrete compared to the one that I just showed you, and what I used in those three over here. So in this one there's actually holes, and some of the stones is slightly loose. So what I'll do, I'm gonna wet the surface around with this wet cloth, and then I have a mixture of concrete without any stones, so it's just sand and cement. There's a few stones in it, but I'll try to get around those with it. And this is the same thing you'll do if you have holes in the surface that from air bubbles and you want to get rid of. You just pour on a new mix. And I did this with my first Atlas stone from Hybrid, what I got here, and as you can see, it gets a little darker around because it's not the exactly same mix that I made, and the surface is a bit rough, but you can sand it down. So there's a little bit of stones in here, but let's see. And then just massage it into the uneven surface. So now that I got a new layer around the edge, then I'll just make it settle for a few days and it's ready to use. That's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit the like button, and if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so. See you soon.